Greetings and salutations, my name is Zenimus here, and I'm joined by the lovely Onyx today, and we are talking about reverse engineered identity, otherwise known as avatar ripping and asset theft. To clarify, when it comes to ripping avatars, what we are specifically referring to is the act of taking assets that don't belong to the individual without their consent via the use of either modded clients and or outside utilities or tools to access either the ID of the avatar, the meshes of the avatar, or any of the other assets therein, to either take said model itself to basically impersonate or modify to make it your own, or to then re-upload the assets from the actual project itself as their own individual assets, without actually purchasing assets in question. The biggest things I'd like to bring up, at least initially anyways, when it comes to ripping avatars and its legality, kind of in a gray area as far as what is and isn't sharing of intellectual properties. When it comes to an asset you use that you bought from a creator to put on a model that's then uploaded to VR chat, because of the cloning system and the assets themselves fall under the TOS of the actual maker, it's a weird gray area when it comes to legality. You'd have, honestly, a real hard time suing someone who stole your assets, whereas you wouldn't have a hard time DMCAing someone who is trying to impersonate you with your assets. Hence why even the more known Ripper store has a DMCA dedicated email for people to get their things removed from the store, because that side of removing something illegally is very easy, because if it's a direct impersonation of your likeness or your model or your creation, you can show that. It's also against the TOS for VR chat itself to reverse engineer assets, likenesses, or models. Even if you weren't to rip someone's model, but if you were to rebuild it from the ground up, that's also against the TOS of VR chat. Duplicating somebody else's model, even from the ground up, is still reverse engineering their properties and is a violation. So because of that, it is a reportable offense. You can go through proper channels. If someone does try to copy you and you can show that, you should be able to get their account shut down. As far as I can look into it, because I am not a lawyer, unfortunately, I am not anywhere near smart enough for that. That's the extent of the known legality regarding that, because no one's actively pursued a court case, so there's not one I could refer to show how this would actually go in a court proceeding, because most of the time, at least from what I can tell, rippers kind of vary, but usually if someone's ripping a model, it is literally prioritizing for assets. They're not usually targeting a person. As such, unless it's like just thrown up on the Ripper store for the hell of it, most of the time they just rip the assets from the avatar, repackage those to look like what they're supposed to, and then put that up instead. And it's not even connected to the model it was taken from. And because of this, there's not a lot of instances where someone who cares enough to bring it to court occurs, because again, a simple DMCA will usually cause that person to stop what they're doing. Usually it's a kid, for being honest. It's usually someone who's like 16 years old who looked up a tutorial online on how to rip a model. And they did. And if it's not, it's probably someone who was after the assets and not the model itself, because the other demographic that uses ripped assets the most is actually avatar creators, because the asset market is quite expensive. I personally have probably like a couple $100, and then my mate has thousands of dollars in just assets they've bought as they've been making avatars. So the biggest appeal for ripping an avatar is actually taking paid assets so that you don't have to pay for them. And it has nothing to do with the personal avatar or designs or textures on the model.
A lot of people know I'm a joint account with my girlfriend. This is my point of view, not hers whatsoever. For me, I don't condone an avatar ripping, don't agree with it whatsoever. On information with avatar ripping, like you stated, most of the time it's little kids or trolls on the internet just trying to get a good laugh. At the same time, it very well could be for people who are financially incapable of buying said assets. I mean, I have bought assets before that have cost $45 to $65 for one little thing and end up either it not working 100%. I can't get a refund off of it. If there was an easier way, ripping would be the way. I don't do it. But again, a lot of people rather go that route and just ripping it because they think this is just a video game. They don't really think of the broad spectrum of someone put the time and effort to create this. They may have bought materials to create this, the equipment that's used to create this, and so forth and so forth. So that's the majority of it, and especially the trolls. I believe there was an actual recent situation that actually happened to us, a specific content creator that had made a long 10-minute long video about avatar ripping, their point of view, saying their different points on this, and then I believe it was a week later, their avatar got ripped. From what I hear, Tweety Birds, don't take this as a grain of salt, it was literally just to prove a point to them that it's not going to stop, unfortunately. Again, trolls, just doing it to get a good laugh out of them. So that is the biggest thing as far as actual, the avatar ripping and whatnot. I look at it a different view. If I were to join a world, I see someone sitting in my avatar, I'd be like, man, that person really wants to either be like me or really likes me, one of the two. I'm not gonna look at it a negative way, be like, dude, stop stealing my crap and whatnot. I mean, yeah, I've put in over shit. This has got over 200 hours in this avatar alone, and this is revision 130. Like, I have put in way too much time in this avatar. My girlfriend Lux, she has put in so much time in my textures as well. I have spent on this avatar alone, this is about $600 avatar. Between the customizing options that I have done with it, the people who have hired to do some Blender work, even let alone just my work that I have done on it as well. And that's not really fully including the assets I have on it. It can get expensive, I understand that, but at the same time, I try not to look at it negatively. Now, I am going to be a little sour though if they're just going to be a little snotty brat and say, yeah, it's mine now, and start claiming it as them, just like you were stating with the DMC. If you're going to rip an avatar for some reason, don't go around and try to impersonate yourself as someone. It's like me going around saying I'm George Clooney. I'm not, obviously. That's just, you don't do that. It's etiquette for one. Two, you don't know who you're impersonating. Say you're impersonating someone that got in trouble legally. They did some messed up stuff. Now you're hopping around worlds in their avatar. You really like their avatar, but now you're going to get the bad flack from them. So you don't really know what you're getting yourself into when it comes to these avatar ripping situations whatsoever. Like you said, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I don't even want to look at my bank account on how much money I've spent on assets and stuff like that.
They add up
let alone
quickly.
The subscriptions for the art programs.
You're not wrong. So, to draw a parallel that I think makes the Ripper scene a little bit clearer, at least for those who aren't involved in avatar creation, there's actually another type of art form, especially in the online media, that gets plagiarized a lot, gets taken as someone's identity, and that's actually icon art. One of the bigger areas of controversy when it comes to artwork, at least especially in like the furry fandom, you can see it everywhere, is with people taking other people's icons. That like you commission an icon to get made for yourself, and before you know it, there's like 12 or 13-year-olds that now have your icon as their own. But it's not just related to the furry fandom. Anybody with any form of notoriety outside of the fandom, you could take someone like Markiplier. You'll see like 20 different accounts on every video he'll make, or like a couple thousand if we're being honest, that'll have the same icon he's using because it's just that icon is cool. And so they see it, it's cool, and they want to use it. And so they do. When it comes to the digital medium, it's very easy to see something and resonate with it and then want to use that to express yourself. And so you run into a weird gray area when it comes to art, where if you're expressing yourself with that icon and you're trying to get yourself out there to grow and learn about things, a large portion of the time you will grab something that isn't yours, it's someone else's, which can make the person who you're taking from feel quite awful about it, or just creeped out in general. I'd like to say that there's a right and a wrong here, but it's very much falls in a gray area for a reason. Most of the people who are doing that, they're either too young to understand how wrong it is, or they're doing it because it was funny, because they're a troll. And there's not a lot of gray area between those two sides. It's very rare you're going to find someone who rips someone else's model without either the intent of, hey, this helps express who I am. This looks like how I want to look, and so I'm going to look like that. It helps me be me. That's usually the last thought they'll have about it. Which is why if someone does rip a model, they don't tend to just like go run around and be like, I'm this person now. No, usually they're just chilling with their friends like everyone else. You wouldn't even realize they ripped the model because they took it to express themselves, and that was where it ended in their mind. And the only other time is if someone's trolling or going for assets. I can't stress how much of the actual Ripper scene is for assets. It really just is. It's sad, but it's true.
There's one more additional side that people don't really see a lot. Well, it's becoming very big now, is people ripping assets to make profit. That is the absolute big no-no. There's a big one that's going around right now, but actually back when I first started content creating, as you guys can see through my original stuff, I was using an avatar that was made from a creator. After a couple thousand follows on my account, the creator actually hit me up and handed me the package. They stated, here, have it. I want you to have it. Let alone, little did I know that when they handed me the package, I had the core file for the avatar. That costs money. They handed me also all of the assets everything included in it. I had basically what you would consider an avatar ripped package. I have everything at my disposal for free. They did not charge me. They asked for a little donation to their Ko-fi account, which we supplied because we didn't know better at the time. But little did I know that that is considered in a form of avatar ripping. Now, obviously, after all that, I think it was literally 3 weeks or so afterwards, we had an agreement. We bought everything that we saw on the package. Hence why I have their Rexium package, because it was a Rexium-based package for the avatars. I bought it all. We got everything. We got all the clothing. And we made it good because we did not feel right having that package. It was whether it was wrong on the creator or not, that is for your judgment, not mine. I don't think the creator was definitely not doing it in a bad way. He wasn't just trying to just self-distribute and make profit off of it whatsoever. But at the same time, he's just a small little example of the wide variety of people that have done this before. I've heard stories and stories and stories of people just, hey, you want to custom avatar? They're really good friends. They just hand them off the package. Yeah, you're good friends. I don't care. Still support the creator. The creator of that avatar, you don't know how much time and money and knowledge they spend on it. Some of these people actually go to school for some of these 3D stuff. I believe you're in actual Blender, somewhat of an education right now. So imagine all of your work going into that and just going out there in the public like that for free. Now you have no way to trace it down. To me, I would feel absolutely that just made me upset to know. That's why I quickly swapped out that avatar as quick as I could for my own variant and went from there. So people just need to understand that there's multiple sides to it, and the one big side that I hate the most is the people who want to profit off of the avatar ripping, and that's really upsetting. Now, I'm not talking about the people who commission, not at all. We commission, we commission a bunch of people, and people commission us. More or less, they commission my girlfriend Lux, and the way we do things is obviously you can only provide so much proof on owning an asset. Obviously, I asked for some sort of transactional proof. You send it to me, and from there, I'm going based off the fact that you're stating, hey, I have bought this Rexium package. I own it in my archive system. Okay, cool. I'm not going to charge you for it. You're more than welcome to buy it. You can buy it, and then I'll hand you over the Unity package. No matter what, when you make money off the commission, if you were to hand out the physical Unity package or Blender package, whatever package, any kind of digital media that contains the original art style or creation style, you need to give that money back to the creator. They worked hard for this. There's a reason why they're selling it. They're selling it to make profit. They worked their butts off on it, going for the creators that actually have worked on models and whatnot, not creators who take 3 different models, splice them together, and sell them for an outrageous amount of money. That's just... Sorry. Anyways.
I mean, technically those are also fine, even if you personally feel like it might be it is technically Blender work. They are setting it back up, and as long as they're making sure that you paid for all the things, it's just another asset. So don't asset.
But when they charge...
Creators can charge whatever they want. If you don't want to pay it, make it yourself. That's how that works.
I'm not saying you can charge as much as you want, but if you're gonna charge,
if they want to charge
something for a simple,
they could charge $15,000 to put your head on a different model. If you want to pay that's on you. They could charge what they want. That's how that works. It's art, right? That's how that works.
They can.
Yes, they can. There's literally nothing stopping them. There's absolutely nothing stopping them. Artists set their own prices.
So. Like, inflation here in America is real, guys. We gotta charge what we can.
But yeah, so at least for me, Onyx can have an opinion that disagrees with me, but at least for me, artists are fully allowed to charge whatever the fuck they want. That's completely up to them.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing to that whatsoever. You guys can charge whatever you want. There's certain gray lines in that.
It's easy to become annoyed with an overpriced asset. That part I can understand. Again, having spent way too much on assets myself, including ones that were terrible. I can understand, but at the same time, it's still, again, that artist is attempting to make funds for a reason. They have to eat themselves. They're doing whatever the heck they're trying to do. Hey, maybe they're making assets to buy an asset they wanted to buy. You don't know where they're coming from or what their story is or why their prices are where they are. Maybe it's just in their head that's where it logically should have been.
Maybe, let me rephrase what I was stating basically then. A person who's selling a package, let's just say it's my package right here. This is a custom-based package for the Rexium. I have an NGK Proto ears, Nardo fluff, and I am on a Rexium base with an Oculi custom eye ball. All done in Blender, fully custom. I can distribute this. If I'm to distribute this, the thing that should be the right way of doing it is verification that they own those assets. I should not be self-distributing this Rexium and this Nardo. Now, if there was some heavy alterations to the body, obviously, maybe better muscle tones, something that actually is fully removing itself from what's known as the Rexium, that is a different story. But when it's an obvious avatar that looks like the regular base package, I would say, for me personally, you need to be supporting both creators. The person who's made this custom blend file package, like I said, these are NTK Proto Ears and Erexium. You slap these two together, it doesn't take much time in Blender. They can charge that labor, but they did not create the physical portions, if that makes sense. They did not create the Rexium, they did not create the ears, they didn't create the fluff. They literally are just ripping these off of other avatars and putting them together. They need to verify that at least that was owned by the other person.
Which, at least in my experience, having bought several different multi-mashed together avatars, like I have like 5 of them now, at least in my experience, they almost always do. I've never had someone who does Blender work mashups not verify that I have my assets. So, again, that's completely possible. Just in my experience, I haven't run into any yet. The ones that do them like regularly and well, for that matter, I literally hadn't run into anyone yet.
If you look at Gumroad, there's one on Gumroad. You can buy it.
So
you can actually buy a mashup unit.
So one thing we do have to clarify is that the idea of making sure somebody else has assets is kind of a niche in and of itself, because at least if you look at anything like the anime side of things, you will find mashup avatars are normal, because at least for them, the base model is usually a generic base model that anyone can get their hands on. Because of that, you are actually buying the asset mashup. That mashup is literally what you're paying for, because the base isn't unique.
Yeah, I didn't think of it like that.
The problem is that even then, you have no way to know or verify. None of those funds are probably going back to the original person who made the assets, unless that person themselves is that person. Unfortunately, that's a normal thing in the purchasing market for things like VR chat, which is a whole can of worms in and of itself. Unfortunately, that is part of the standard of mashups when they're bought from somewhere like Gumroad. The only thing I can say is that that's why this is not a legal issue, this is a moral issue. It comes down to the fact that it's taking funds away that should have gone to the original creator of the assets, because they're the ones that originally put the time in to make the asset for you. While there's nothing stopping you from getting bundles and things like that without ever owning the original assets, if you're able to, you should go out of your way to make sure you actually own the assets. As far as the standard goes, it's usually frowned upon to share with anyone who's not directly in your own house. So that includes partners. If your partner is not where you are, it's usually frowned upon to do so.
I was gonna say, like, if you're sharing with your Discord buds, stop it, man. That's not fair. Let them go buy their own package, and if anything, send them the FBX once they've bought the package, so that if you made some customization, you're wanting to sell your customizing, or if you want to give your friend your customization, like, let's say for you, right? This is my technical custom FBX. I own the rights for this custom FBX. I don't own the rights for the Rexium one. He has all the assets. I can send him my FBX. That's proper. I'm not going to just send him my FBX and Unity base package with all the assets and everything attached to it without him buying it, at least. That wouldn't be right of all the creators, and it's not right of me.
Pretty sure I own everything on his model anyways, but that's besides the point. Oh, it weren't too.
You really do.
I have the
hardest. This is coming from the guy who ripped my texture once and put it on his avatar to joke around with me.
I didn't rip it. You gave it to me. That's not how it happened at all. You gave me the text. I didn't give it to you
to put on your avatar.
Yes, you did. I literally told you the joke as for a skit, and you said that's dope. And then Lux gave me the texture. I didn't rip nothing. You guys handed it to me.
There it is. Lux gave you the texture. I didn't give you the texture.
But you said all your textures were built by Lux, so they're her textures, not yours. Thank you very much. Because last I checked, you didn't make shit.
I make the avatars, okay?
So I got your textures. Yeah, I got your textures from the texture maker. I'm sorry.
But no, yeah, I want to reel back on the profile picture scenario of Big Rap ripping, if you don't mind, just for a quick 2-minute section on that one, real quick. I can understand where that comes from because a lot of people, I notice a lot of people. I mean, Google is a hell of a place. You look up my name under Google, you're going to get my profile picture. You're also going to get several other people's profile pictures as well. It's not that hard to copy, paste, done. You have the profile picture. You really like a design I drew. Just say a lot of people on TikTok, they do a lot of drawn logos on paper. Some be like, man, that looks great, or 3D art. They'd be like, man, that looks great. I want that as my profile picture. That resembles me a lot. Okay, cool. That does resemble you a lot, but just understand this. It is not you. That is not you in one slightest bit. You can take it and maybe the line art, you can redo the line art, but even then, the line art down to that has some situations.
We do not have time. We do not have time to go over the moralities of tracing. That is an entirely new video.
Hey, you're the one that started this conversation.
No, I ended my topic on icons for a reason, because the art industry has a whole plethora of a giant pit that is arguments for and against what is too far and what isn't when it comes to copying, redistributing, and everything when it comes to art. Art is complicated. It includes 3D models. I'm going to tear us away from the icons before we jump into a pit we can't escape. There is only one other thing I wanted to talk about. The EAC addition and the mod removals. Did it impact ripping as a whole? And at least as far as I've been able to tell, from where I've looked and what I've seen, the answer is yes, but also no. So it did impact the ripping scene in the sense that it kind of removed the ease of access. Totally didn't. But it removed the ease of access from people who don't want to do any legwork. You can't just download a single package, search up someone's name, and grab their model. It's not as simple anymore. And because it isn't that simple, the baseline people who used to rip models are just too fucking lazy to do it anymore.
I don't really think they realize how complicated avatar ripping is.
It is, but it isn't. It's really simple, but it's also slightly more complicated than most people are willing to do. It's like getting into Unity. It's not that hard, but most people are not willing to do it. So because of that being the wall that they have to climb over, it's more like a speed bump, it is enough to deter the average user from ripping a model. And because of that, I do actually think it worked, in the sense that the majority of rippers are gone. And so you still have people who rip models, but the vast majority of them now are so much less about personal stuff. Obviously that one person did it to prove a point during the video you mentioned, which is the point. It's still 100% possible to rip a model. However, the average user isn't going to do it because they're just not worth the time, which means all that's left is the people who don't care about your personal model. They care about the assets you put on it, because the assets you put on it have a real world value. Rex has a value. The hair I have has a value. It's by Aidenfur. This costs money to buy. And so because of that, and then Doppel eye shaders, things like that. The point is to get your hands on something that is either exclusive or costs money to get your hands on, is the reason for most of ripping, which again is a problem, and it sucks for the people who are making the assets, but it has a lot less of an impact than it used to before the changes that VRChat tried to do in order to fight against this, which worked for the average user, which I think was their intent the whole time. So at least from my perspective, looking at it, I think the changes overall were good. And it was a smart decision to shift, as much as I hate EAC. But as a byproduct of removing mods, it has resulted in making things less ease of access. It also removed all of your protections, for the record. Like, most of the programs you could have used to prevent ripping are also gone. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us on this crazy journey talking about models. Thank you very much, Onyx, for joining us. Hopefully next time we'll drag Lux along with us. Or maybe I'll just steal them for an exclusive about Substance Painter.
If anyone's got questions, feel free to DM any of us as well if you had any sort of questions.
In other words, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, there's a comment section. Talk to us. Bye.
Why?